Hello, welcome to today's webinar, Growing Your Exports, What the U.S. Commercial Service Can Do for You. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Noah, and I am founder and president of Shipping Solutions. Since 1995, our export documentation and compliance software has helped thousands of successful exporters more efficiently generate accurate export documents and stay compliant with import-export regulations. To help educate our customers and the wider international trade community, we regularly host free webinars like this one on the various aspects of international trade. Today, I'd like to introduce Mathew Woodlee as our speaker. Mathew is director of the U.S. Commercial Service Office in Minneapolis, which is part of the International Trade Administration. Prior to serving as director, he was the ITA Global Industry Team Leader for Safety and Security and Senior International Trade Specialist at the Minneapolis U.S. Export Assistance Center from 2010 to 2022. Prior to coming to Minnesota in 2010, Mathew was Director of International Trade for the state of New Mexico. In that position, he led the efforts of the New Mexico Economic Development Department's services to enhance New Mexico's international economic competitiveness. Mathew has a BA in political science and an MBA in international management from the University of New Mexico and has completed the prestigious Policy Fellows program at the University of Minnesota's Humphrey School of Public Policy and Affairs. Thank you for joining us, Mathew.
Thank you.
But before he gets started with his presentation, I'd like to explain how today's webinar is going to work. All attendees at today's webinar are muted. At the end of his presentation, Mathew has agreed to take your questions, which you can submit through the Zoom webinar Q&A window on your screen. And I will monitor that Q&A window and ask as many questions as time allows. So please use the Q&A window, not the chat window. This webinar is being recorded, so if you don't want to be part of that recording, please log out now. We're going to make the recording available to everyone who registered for this webinar in a few days, probably on Monday, so you can watch or rewatch the webinar at that. So if we're all ready, let's get started. Mathew, if you want to get started, please go ahead.
Great. Thank you, David, and really a lot of thanks to you and Shipping Solutions for having us and giving us a chance to speak about the role of federal government and in international trade, and particularly the U.S. Commercial Service. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to kind of click through some of these slides. I'm going to talk about why do we do this? Why is the federal government focused on supporting exporting and international trade, and the importance to us as the U.S. economy? We'll talk about that role and how that works kind of across federal government. So there's a kind of a clear understanding about how it works with federal government services, in particular to international trade and export support. I'm going to give you a good detailed overview of particularly of our service and our agency that really is the core of export promotion and trade promotion services that are available via the federal government. And we work with a lot of the other federal agencies in support of those efforts. And I'll talk about those in detail, including some specialized programs that we focus on that are important to our agency, as well as kind of important to niche focus. For example, how we help companies approach their digital strategy and e-commerce as it pertains to international trade. So real excited to be here and excited to present this information. So thank you again. So the bottom line of why we do this is the companies that export grow faster. And not only that, they are less likely to go out of business. This is a key point for us. Expanding markets, diversifying sales channels are some key strategies, in any growth of any business, whether that's domestically or internationally. But what we find is companies that are exporting tend to grow in a faster manner. And this is not dependent upon company size. We work with and note our support for all size businesses. They're vital to the U.S. economy. Exports are critical to the US economy as well as company growth. So more than 70% of the world's purchasing power is outside of the United States. And what we're finding is that competitors are increasing their global market share, while we here in the US are not performing as well when it comes to accessing these global markets. Now, I've been in this game for a little while now, and I could tell you that I've given this presentation many times over my career, and that statistic that I just gave, the 70% of world's purchasing power is outside the United States, has changed just in the 10, 15 years that I've been working in this field. That used to be 50%, 60%. But the growth of the market purchasing power around the world is no doubt growing fastest outside of the United States. And so that number now is 70% of the world's purchasing power is outside of the United States, and that's going to continue to grow. And it's important to stay in tune with that growth. Huge opportunities around the world are available, but we have some space here in the United States that we can help kind of put some emphasis on this, on why international sales and international trade and exporting is critical. So if you look at some of our developed partners around the world, anything as high as 47%, 42% in Germany and Korea of their GDP is generated by exports. You look at China, the United Kingdom, and even Canada, our neighbors up north, are generating a high amount of percentage of their gross domestic product from exports, while we here in the United States are only at 11% of our GDP is generated by exports. Now, of course, we are in the middle of one of the, if not the biggest, largest economy in the world, and there is a lot of attention that gets taken away from international. And so part of what we want to remind folks is that the opportunity is there, and our agency is here to help kind of fill that space when companies are looking to grow and grow the GDP percentage of exports for GDP. I love this slide. I love this map. And this is the marine traffic that's going on around the world. It's a snapshot. You can actually see this live on marinetraffic.com. But I like to look at this and show kind of the amazing visual that trade is on our planet. And this is only the maritime traffic. So we're not talking cross-country road traffic. We're not talking cross-border traffic. We're not talking air traffic. And this is pretty comprehensive and amazing how much activity is out there, including industries such as travel and tourism, which we consider an export and an industry that we focus on, are reflected in this map through pleasure boating and cruise ships. So think of this map, and I'll go back to it in just a quick second when I start talking about the commercial service. But this is kind of the boring government slide that is full of words and bullets that explain that the U.S. federal government does actually coordinate its trade promotion activities. There is a group called the Trade Promotion Coordinating Committee. It's chaired and run out of chaired by the Secretary of Commerce and run out of the Department of Commerce. And it was established to provide a framework to coordinate the export promotion and export finance activities of the U.S. government. And that way, the government-wide strategy is there to help leverage all the resources that the U.S. government has in order to support companies seeking to export. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the services that are offered, but the Advocacy Center, which is a group in D.C. that helps U.S. companies bid and advocates for U.S. companies bidding on foreign government tenders, utilizes this committee network quite a bit. We have a trade deal team initiative with State Department on infrastructure projects, and that's all run through TPCC. And you can see all of these 20 departments and agencies that are listed here are key somehow in some way in the export and trade promotion work of the U.S. government. And we at the Department of Commerce are central to that. And the U.S. Commercial Services, your point of contact, and how do you access all of this support. So if you remember that map that I put up on the marine traffic, I compare it often to this bubble map. So this is us, the U.S. Commercial Service. One of the primary things that we offer is our network. We are existing to create jobs in the U.S. and strengthen U.S. economic and national security by promoting exports. It's the primary thing we do. We also try to ensure market access and compliance, and there's a level playing field for our U.S. companies throughout the world. Um, Located in 106 U.S. offices. My office is local here in Minneapolis, and we cover most of the state of Minnesota. We partner some of the northern part of our state with our Fargo, North Dakota office. And so throughout the United States, just about every inch of the United States is covered by one of our offices. And there is a direct contact person who will work with you in accessing the rest of our network in 127 different foreign locations in 80 different countries. So our global network of trade and investment professionals are really what differentiates us in terms of the support that we can provide for U.S. companies. These are government entities, government offices that are staffed by U.S. diplomats. We hire local nationals to be our specialists in the foreign market country offices that are generally based in our U.S. embassies and our consulates. So we have this kind of diplomatic approach to trade, and where the commercial sections of the consulates and embassies can be there directly to support U.S. companies dealing with trade issues. And we'll dive a little bit more into how that works and what our services kind of entail. So the primary thing that we do in our office and the U.S. offices abroad, or excuse me, U.S. offices around the country, we're export counselors. We're a service that is available for companies to call, email, reach out to, establish a trade specialist relationship that will provide insight and answer your questions in terms of how you are approaching your international business. We divide our workload by agency, or excuse me, by industry primarily. So what will happen is a company will be able to work with a local U.S. office who is a specialist who focuses only on a handful of industry sectors. And that person would then be able to connect to all the resources, information, answer questions that the company might have in terms of its international challenges. And we answer questions on all kinds of topics for exporting. It could be on finance questions. It could be on marketing. It could be on shipping and logistics issues. We often broker information. We say here that there is a question, and we may not be the agency that handles that or is the regulatory agency, but we do know how to answer those questions and get our clients to the right answers. I should also note, and we can talk about this more, but when you reach out to us, this is not a fee-based a service in terms of our export counseling. We only have fees if there's some real customized work that's being done overseas, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But this is free for companies. You can, or prepaid, as I say, as a taxpayer entity here in the United States, you can access us by sending an email or giving us a call. One of the things we also counsel a lot on, and it's kind of a newer portion of trade in the last, say, decade or so, is that of e-commerce. And we have a specific group called the E-commerce Innovation Lab that focuses on counseling companies and providing resources on how you can identify cross-border trade opportunities and sales opportunities via your digital presence, your website, the use of the website in terms of international marketing, and even to the point of transaction. So we do have some counseling and answers to questions on those topics as well. The next category of service from the U.S. Commercial Service that's critically important is market intelligence. Understanding what's going on the ground and how we can help companies understand what best services or what best markets they can approach. Is a particular country or market a good product or a good location for them to concentrate on? Just answering kind of those general questions as to where should I, or what markets could I possibly sell my product into? We do this through a number of services that are available either for free or a customized fee-based service. And the primary one that we refer to folks first are our country commercial guides. These are free online guides. They cover over 125 countries. They all have the same chapters in terms of kind of what are the best opportunities, some of the market overview, some of the challenges, the trade standards and custom standards, certification and standards requirements in that sense. So these country commercial guides are nice overviews that companies should always review as they're looking at doing business in particular countries. But sometimes these general reports need a little bit more customization, or you need a little bit more specific information about your product or service. We do put together customized research in terms of maybe pricing or some other kind of questions you might have that don't fit kind of in our categories of service. But with the two on the ground, really important services I'll talk about real quick here in market intelligence are our initial market check and our international company profile. The initial market check is what it sounds like. We are not sure, you're not sure. We want to see and check if this market is going to be a potentially good market for you. The way we do that is the service will actually, our overseas staff will try to get feedback from up to about 5 industry participants that may be organizations, nonprofits, trade associations, actual companies, distributors, and they will provide feedback and recommendations on your product or service as to the viability or the potential of interest in that market. It's a very quick initial check, and that feedback is provided in a form of a report. And then we provide that to the U.S. company, and then they can decide, is there further efforts that we want to pursue? If it comes back not so positive, maybe that saved you a huge amount of time, money, and effort in pursuing a market that may not be as opportunistic for you. And then the other service I mentioned here is the international company profile. This is a big and important thing that we recommend every company do when you're dealing with partners in foreign markets, is to get a full due diligence and background check on that potential partner. And we are able to provide that service through the international company profile. There are different levels of the service. Some are more just based on public information about the company. But in other cases, particularly if companies are looking to sign an agreement or a contract or a distribution agreement, they'll engage in an international company profile in order to understand kind of who the company is, what's their structure, who are their owners. We will check references, banking references. We will look and ask for financials, provide a credit report, and all of these information provided to you in this service called the International Company Profile, which will help U.S. companies get a picture of who their partner is, or potential partner, and if they want to pursue that partnership. The third category of service that we cover, and probably what we're, I guess, known for, if we are known, is our business matchmaking. And of course, most export promotion, we could really get into kind of the methods of entry and the methods of exporting. But the vast majority of export companies that we work with are working with partners on the ground in country to help them import and distribute their product. So often there is a need for U.S. companies to do their export over services to find a business partner who can help them. And that might be a distributor, but it could be a joint venture partner. It could be some other service providers or some other combination of a key partner that would work. And we have services that will actually help do this. The main ones that I'll talk about are if we're going to take a broad approach to marketing or a targeted. So not necessarily in order of this slide, but one of the more exciting programs we have at the bottom of the slide here is the Gold Key service. So both the International Partner Search and the Gold Key service are very similar programs where we will kind of take the criteria of the U.S. company of what partner they're looking for, and we will search the market to make contact with companies that would kind of fit that criteria. We would introduce your company and see if they are interested in doing business with you potentially. The difference between the Partner Search and the Gold Key service is kind of the delivery. The Partner Search is a form of a report. And that report will have contact information, a review of what we talked to them about, and an assessment of the level of interest they have. The Gold Key service is a very similar work in terms of finding those potential partners and getting them together, but we actually set appointments for you in country, that you would come over to the country and have a day or two of meetings pre-screened, pre-qualified with potential partners. The Gold Key service is the premier service. It works the best. Face-to-face is always great. But the International Partner Search is another great service that we can also add a virtual component in terms of the matchmaking nowadays. That wasn't the case years ago, but now you're used to doing business through our laptops, and the International Partner Search is available for companies to include some business-to-business matchmaking meetings virtually. These are for companies that are kind of ready to go, able to enter the market, and are looking for those sales channels. On top of this is a service I'll mention called the Single Company Promotion. This is a general service that we offer companies, how to promote maybe an event type of promotion service where there may be more than one-on-ones that they need to do. Maybe there's a group of people that they would like to present to. Maybe it's an audience. Maybe it's a bigger meeting of 10, a dozen. It all depends. It's very customized as to what the U.S. company wants, but it's a great way to kind of do a splash of some sort, or a key event in the market that would target a promotion of your company and products and services. So we've done anything from technical seminars, education seminars, and about technical issues that a product or service may address. We've done wine and dine receptions, signing ceremonies, openings, grand openings. All of those types of promotional events can get support from the U.S. embassies abroad via this single company promotion service. A big area that we kind of play into and address our mission is through trade events. These are trade events that are either conducted or managed by us. We often will also participate in other trade events, trade shows, and the like. We love joining other webinars and events to promote our services and let people know about us as well, like this one. But trade events are critical to our mission. We have two branded events that we conduct ourselves that are great to look out for. They move around the country and the world. The Discover Global Markets is an organization, it's an event organized by us. It's usually here in the United States. It features specific industries and regions of the world. We bring in our specialists and commercial officers from overseas within those sectors and those countries to the United States, and there are panel discussions and opportunities to meet one-on-one with our specialists, and often even business-to-business matchmaking. Similar is TradeWinds, which is an overseas conference and mission that usually takes place in multiple countries. Our next one up, coming up in May, is in Turkey, and accessing Europe and Eurasia. There's the way that works is there'll be a business conference in the main anchor country, in our case, Turkey, this next one. And then companies will have the option to take spin-off trips to surrounding countries, maybe 2 or 3, and receive Gold Key-like business-to-business matchmaking services. It's a great program. It's a big splash. It brings the power of the U.S. government and the sway into these markets, and they get a lot of attention from the industry and the buyers and the folks in those markets overseas. So those are two of our critical ones that we always promote, and companies should really take a good look at. Again, the markets and the industries change annually, and so you can get on our trade.gov website and find those updates. But also what we do is a couple of trade events that are programs that we will either provide services to trade show organizers or to organizations that might be use our services to promote, say, a trade mission. So a certified trade mission would be an organization would come to us, whether it's a state government, a local government, or a chamber, and they would like to create a trade mission for their agency. They can work with us. We can provide the services, the background, the information, the business to business matchmaking, and things of that nature for the trade mission. And we would work with that association or that organization. They would recruit the companies and they would be approved by us and to receive those services. So sometimes you might see a trade mission by an organization that is quote unquote supported by the U.S. Commercial Service. That would be under our Certified Trade Mission program. We also attend trade shows. Major trade shows in the United States in particular will, like say the Consumer Electronics Show or the Home and Houseware Show is sometimes the World of Concrete, or a few examples of some that are out there. But we probably do 20 to 30 major domestic trade shows. Those trade show organizers contract with us and our global teams to provide services that includes recruiting buyers to go to the trade show, export counseling for the U.S. exhibitors at the show. We'll do sometimes business to business matchmaking, and we also can set up often our specialists from different countries around the world will come to the show, and then we set up appointments with the U.S. exhibitors with those specialists to get briefings and to get a sense of some tactics for their market entry or growth in those countries. And I think the final, or at least the fifth area of services within the U.S. Commercial Service is that of, and the International Trade Administration and the U.S. government as a whole, because the State Department, everybody plays a role in this, is that of commercial diplomacy. We are the U.S. government. We are here to help, as they say, and that is accessible for U.S. companies to use that network for dealing with challenges and problems that they are having abroad. We learn often about trade barriers, dispute issues through our clients. We don't always have the ability to get in front of every trade barrier that gets thrown up around the world. We do have a whole team that works on that in DC, but there are ways where companies can come to us and see if we can get some assistance that a government to government type of program would help. The Advocacy Center I mentioned before is an effort for U.S. exporters to compete on foreign procurement opportunities. And the Advocacy Center will do a number of things working with the U.S. company to help promote the decision that's in favor of U.S. companies or that particular product or service in that tender. Letters of support, opening doors and making introductions that are appropriate. Things of that nature, maybe combining our single company promotion and getting government decision makers in front of the U.S. company to learn about the benefits of their products and services and why they would benefit that particular procurement. So that Advocacy Center is important. They're measured based on number of wins, not size or of company or size of dollar amount. So, a $30,000 sale to a foreign government entity is equally viewed, and effort is there as a $3 million or $30 million sale to the government. So we encourage all our companies to look at this if they're going to their products may be in a foreign government procurement. They don't have to be the direct bidder. They could be selling through a distributor. But if the U.S. product is going to potentially be bought by a foreign government, we can see how we can provide support and help for that. You can also report trade barriers to us. If there is a undue burden documentation issue, if there's some strange thing that's happening that's blocking you out of the market and it's related to, it could be a direct trade barrier, it could be a certification issue, we can try to help address that, particularly if it's really targeting U.S. companies and keeping U.S. companies out of the market. We would have a sincere problem with that and go to bat for companies on those issues. So those are good for us on the policy side as well to continually address these issues. But on the tactical level, I know we understand that companies don't have time for a government committee to get together and try to solve broader standards problems. What we try to do is at least get down to the brass tacks of your current problem and the issue you're having and see what we can do to help that situation Is it stuck in customs? Is it something that you can pursue to get support? Is it not? Is there any other solution that will help you solve this problem? So we try to address that as best we can and help our companies through our network abroad. So that was the overview of our very kind of the services and the categories of services and how we work. Um, the U.S. commercial service has a few areas that we're really focusing on. We get a lot of calls from companies, established companies, companies of all size and all industry sectors. And so we often are doing our outreach to make sure, like this, that companies are aware of our services. And one of the things that we have found that we could do better in is identifying companies that are traditionally not served well by the federal government, and in our lane, which is exporting. So, for example, one of those areas is a program we call the Global Diversity Export Initiative. It aims to support businesses in underserved communities with exporting. The target communities are minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, LGBTQ plus businesses, veteran and disabled owned businesses. The way we kind of approach this is, this is not our pure mission, say as similar to the Minority Business Development Agency within the Department of Commerce, but it is important that we are reaching out to the communities and getting access to for them that we have traditionally underserved. So we have some branded programs that focus on kind of bringing these communities together and bringing them to the resources from overseas. We've hosted building bridges in global markets here. That's a program that is designed to, similar to what I'm doing today, just kind of present the information of what is available for companies out there in the U.S. Government and services space. We focus on a lot of effort on women-owned businesses, women empowerment, and trade and investment forums. We've also have a very targeted look at engaging the African diaspora here in the United States and in different communities, and look at leveraging certain industries, the creative economy, and things of that nature to help those companies and those individual entrepreneurs grow here in the United States and sell their products and services abroad. We will conduct our own trade missions in this space. Now, everybody is, regardless of company, is always available to take part in these programs. The women-owned businesses, it's not exclusive to that program; it's targeted to them. So all companies can also kind of participate in that. We feel that that is important for people to know that these are not exclusive; they are inclusive, and companies of all sizes should participate in these programs. That networking and that bringing people together is really a power that we do have in the U.S. commercial service. So we feel as we put these programs together that's a great forum that companies of all sizes and backgrounds can come together and kind of learn how to deal with a lot of these international issues that all companies face, regardless of background. On top of the Global Diversity Export Initiative, a key thing that we focus on is our rural export services for companies outside of the major metro areas. We have a specific program called the Rural Export Center. The Rural Export Center research services are based in Fargo, North Dakota. We have a series of other rural export center locations that have just opened up in this past year, in Des Moines, Louisville, Charleston, West Virginia, Jackson, Mississippi, Midland, Texas, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Boise, Idaho. And they just happen to be sitting in those offices where we have existing locations. The role of those individuals in those centers will be to regionally expand to service the companies in the rural areas within their area. We have a few things here. I'm not going to go through every service listed here, but essentially there are some key programs such as market research that we can perform. We can do what we call a website globalization review, which is part of the digital strategy that I'll talk about here in a second. But for rural companies specifically, we can do a brief assessment of potential partners for rural companies. And so, what has kind of been created by Congress and our agency is a specific set of services that are tailored to rural companies, and our outreach and these services are designed for those companies. Again, these are companies employing folks outside of the major metro areas, and I can kind of discuss how we define that, but is a great service for companies throughout the United States that qualify for given their geographic location. Very critical for us to promote rural services for our exporters. And I did mention that we also have an e-commerce innovation lab. I just got a couple slides here that I'll talk about. Kind of, we do encourage companies to look at their digital strategy as an option for international. It's a little bit more. It's a little different, obviously, than your traditional kind of widget shipping across borders. And one of the reasons, for example, that the former NAFTA free trade agreement was redone under the USMCA, called the U.S. Mexico Canada agreement, is because of digital trade. NAFTA was created before the internet was really robust in terms of cross-border trade, and now it's common. So a lot of the kind of agreements and the trade functionalities out there that the government is working on does affect the digital and e-commerce cross-border trade, and we emphasize with our clients to keep an eye on that. And there's a various services that we offer and programs that we can do. These are kind of our pillars for 5 steps to an international digital strategy. Again, I won't get too much into the detail. We do entire trainings on this, but this is something that we are emphasizing in our presentations as important for companies to look at and see what they can they might want to do. Kind of in where we help with this is definitely kind of the first in our counseling, the first stage of defining a digital objective. We have some in the second pillar, we have some services that we can help companies identify how their websites and the like are working. We do some review on that, on proactively having an international digital presence, and then we kind of get further into the actual transactional side. So these are some of the resources that we have for digital strategies. We do a website globalization review or a gap analysis. This is a service that we would do to look at a company's website, identify challenges they may be having or issues that kind of show that their website is maybe more US centric and focused than it is globally, and ensuring that the website is accessible and from a perspective of a foreign visitor to the website, and what do they see? If their language is different, if the culture is different, the phone numbers, contacts, etc. But we also dig into some of the back engine, or excuse me, the back functions of the website, like search engine optimization, ensuring that backlinks are happening and things of that nature. So, or companies are registered on foreign search engines. So when there are searches going on, that the company would actually show up. We have this all in a e-commerce research guide, which is free. We have some library and some business service providers, companies that help exporters deal with these issues, listed on these websites. Trade.gov is the core of that of our web presence, and we find a lot of resources there. We do like to tell our success stories. I probably could have done the whole presentation full of success stories, but it's a very we do like to take some kind of, how did a company actually use this service and how does it actually work? So this company was a client of ours out of Lexington, Kentucky. They were asking kind of, how do we grow internationally? A general question. And when companies are not quite sure, or we're not quite sure exactly, there's 180, there's so many countries out there in the world. Which one do I start with? How do I know, this is a good market or not? And we kind of take a step back nowadays and say, well, let's look at your web presence and your web globalization and see if that is set up correctly. And if it is, then we can use that as a tool to help you identify what markets might be best and what not. But if you're not yet, there, or you're just starting to dive into international as a thought, then it's something that we should look into. And we generally will recommend a review of your website, particularly through our web globalization review service. We will go through the website and make suggestions. We in this case, there were things like we emphasize that they should focus on made in the USA, connect to social media and YouTube. They had these channels, but they weren't connected on their website. That drives a lot of traffic based on the algorithms of search engines. In their back end of their website, they had some metadata issues and they corrected those. And things of that nature are kind of what we kind of look at to help with this. As such, they noted that their website was getting a lot more traffic. They noted that their SEO rankings were up. And then internationally, via their website, their orders had gone up by $3,000 to $5,000 per day. So that's a great success story. Somewhat not typical or not typical, depending. Everything is customized to the company's situation, and so they were selling a lot on their website, and they were able to realize that they could do even more in other markets. So getting towards the end of my comments today, but just to toot our horn a little bit of the U.S. Commercial Service and why we're out here and doing what we do, and the main reason is we want results for U.S. small businesses. We one of the reasons why we enjoy working with this agency is because we are very brass tacks oriented. We are very oriented and focusing on what is the tactical issue that the company is facing and how can we help them, and address that tactical issue, and turn it into a success. So exporting can be profitable for businesses of all sizes. We also, depending on your budget, companies may have a very low budget when they would think is very low, but a website globalization service would cost probably $100 or less in terms of and not much time in order to kind of fix some of the website issues you may be having. So some of those things are kind of low hanging fruit, can be done for low dollar value. And then there's other companies that have bigger budgets that are looking to, really expand fast and have that ability to get on an airplane and meet partners in those potential markets. We will work with companies from any size and based on, kind of what your resources are and what it is that you're going to want to do. If a small company of a few people came to us, we wouldn't necessarily say, well, you can't do this unless you're going to get on a plane and fly around to 15 markets in this next year. We recognize that's not feasible or possible. So we kind of talk about how can you incrementally improve your business and focus on maybe one market or two, or other things to get you information that will lead to you getting more sales internationally. So we've last year our agency is quite broad, 92,000 different clients assisted. 85% of those were small and medium-sized businesses. We count this number through all our activities, our B2B, our one-on-one counseling, our B2B matchmaking, our trade show work, our webinars, our trade missions. All of these are combined and counted as to how many unique companies make an impact. Do we make an impact with or touch our services? And 92,000 is a big number for a relatively small agency of a couple thousand of us around the world. $170 billion in impact in our U.S. economy through the services and the clients that we work with. There's math that's probably smarter than what I can tell you on how they figure out that total impact. But part of this is both by exporting revenue, as well as we have a agency I didn't talk a lot about, a portion of our agency I didn't talk a lot about that does promote inward investment to help foreign companies actually locate and create jobs here in the United States. And that service has counted up to $54 billion worth of inward investment just last year. 595,000 American jobs are supported by the efforts that we put in. Basically, for every 150, $200,000 of revenue of export sales, you can count that as a job supported, and these are the numbers that we were able to produce as an agency. And this is an important one. I think the most important one is $2.2 million is the average annual revenue increase supported by our clients, about a 7% increase in their revenue. And I always talk to companies one-on-one about this. And there was a time where we had a national effort, for example, to double exports. And companies would ask me, are we able really nationally to double exports? And my answer to them was, I don't know, but I know that we could work with you to double your exports. So that's an important thing to look at. And that's how we approach this work. A couple quotes about us. Won't linger on this too much in terms of the commercial, but with that, I want to encourage everybody to contact your local office. Obviously, you can reach out to me, but we are everywhere. So if you just go to trade.gov/locations, our office locations will show up. You can click on the U.S. or the overseas offices, find our websites, find our contact information, and get in touch with us. We also are on different channels, social media. LinkedIn is probably the most prolific one. If you're looking to follow us on LinkedIn, that would be great, because that's where we also will promote our trade missions and our events as well. And we can also get you connected to our newsletters. So with that, I think that's all I have. That is it. So Dave, I will be more than happy to answer any questions that may come up.
Thank you, Matthew. That was excellent. I appreciate it very much. And if I can editorialize a little bit, I just want to say that I think that the commercial service offices are absolutely the most underutilized resource that American exporters have. And I would encourage everyone who is on this webinar or watching the recording of this webinar to go to that website that's on the screen and find your commercial service office in your location or the one closest to you, and reach out and have a conversation. I know many companies, I've heard many success stories from companies that have used the services of the commercial service and have had success. And the nice thing for small and medium-sized businesses as well is that the commercial service, some of their most engaging products that they offer are priced especially for small businesses. So it's really a budget shouldn't be a barrier to using those services. Can you maybe talk a little bit, Matthew, about how type of pricing is for some of those services that you have, like the Gold Key I'm thinking of in particular?
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks, Dave. That when we customize a service for a U.S. company, we're required by law or the statute that creates us to have a cost recovery fee associated with that. And what we've been able to do with those fees is be able to divide them into three categories for the same service. So, like I mentioned a lot, that we service companies of all size, but if a particular service price might be based on the size of the company. So, for example, a Gold Key service, which is the pre-screened, pre-qualified matchmaking service, which also includes our specialist going to the meetings with the company in country. For a small business, the price would be $950. And I'll say, don't quote me on this because I don't have the actual fees in front of me. So if I'm off by $20 or so, just I might be a bit wrong. But the small business price would be in the range of $950. A medium-sized company, and we define the companies by SBA business standards. So if you qualify as a small business for the Small Business Administration, there's kind of a chart based on industry code that would say how you qualify, but it's usually by number of employees, but it could be revenue. Small businesses that qualify for that, say for a gold key, would get that for $950. The medium-sized company price, which is does not qualify for a SBA small business, but is less than $1 billion in revenue, so it's still pretty big, is around the I want to say around the $1,400 range, maybe a little bit more for a gold key service. And a large company, that's full cost recovery, and it's closer to the $3,400 price range. So you can see that, it's more than 3 times as expensive for a large company than a small company for the same exact service. So you're right, Dave, that's really focused on companies to put a little bit of skin in the game, to make sure that the use of the government time is worthwhile for the U.S. economy. And so there's a little bit of that as to why there are some small fees involved. But really, you're right that they're priced to be affordable, reasonable, and of course they also are services that can't be found easily. We have the benefit of being the government in the embassies and the networks, and our taxpayer dollars pay for that. So U.S. companies and U.S. citizens, have access to that as well.
And I think one of the reasons this is an underutilized service is because some of and I've been fortunate to be on the Minnesota District Export Council for a number of years, so I've heard from many companies who have participated in the services and benefited from the services. They don't want to talk about too much because it's such a competitive advantage, because it's such a great program. And so every time I talk to a company, I always make sure that they've are aware of the commercial service office in their area and encourage them to have an initial conversation. It's an amazing resource. So then I have a question here from another DEC member, this one from Southern California. He wants to do a presentation customized for the M&E industry. Exporting content and IP issues are a couple significant issues we have. Can you talk a little bit about content and IP issues, Matthew?
Yeah, it's that's one of the challenges that we face, and one of the things we try to do is make sure that companies are aware of the risks involved. Now, our role is to help kind of lower some risks or make things a little bit easier. But that's a great point. There are a lot of factors to consider, and we talk about that a lot of upfront as to what are the challenges and risks of going into that market. So we have to be, we tell companies, be very cautious with your intellectual property. We work with the U.S. Patent and Trade Office, another part of the Department of Commerce. We have a program called Stop Fakes. If you go to stopfakes.gov, there are intellectual property protection toolkits and some other resources based on country on how that you can protect your intellectual property in those markets. And that's important. It's very important for some markets more than others, even when you're engaged in our services. So it's a great question too, because we have had the case where we would maybe have a client that wants to get into China, and we would ask them, have you filed or done any work to protect your intellectual property in China? Which there are, ways to do that. And if they say no, we might recommend they do not engage in our service yet, because as we do our matchmaking and we go out and kind of shop for potential partners, word could get out that this product is there, and we try to not share information that is not protected. So we are concerned about that, because your marketing and your sales channels development can't need to be timed properly with the protection of your intellectual property. The other thing is just business confidentiality is a critical thing that we operate under. We're governed by the Trade Secrets Act. So that makes us civil and criminally liable for sharing trade secrets outside of our agency. That's across the board. So we operate very much in a confidential manner. But we do definitely talk to companies about assessing their risk, their intellectual property, and if that is going to be a challenge for them, that they have to consider if this is a good market for them or not.
Okay. And what about, do you counsel on compliance issues as well for certain markets?
Yeah, the compliance is when you say compliance, it's either going to be what the U.S. regulations, right? The U.S. laws that one must comply with as they sell products and services abroad, as well as kind of the compliance on the import side. Now, usually we work with companies to find a partner that can help them with the compliance, and we can provide insights and information on that. But on the export compliance side, it's important for companies to understand that. We do counsel on that. And what I mean by that is we advise what it is, kind of what the process is, where are those federal agency resources that will manage those regulatory regimes. So we are not a regulatory agency; we are a service agency. So we don't regulate anything, but we will get you to the right information or advise you when you need a private service provider. It's do you need a lawyer to do this? Probably yes. We are not tax accountants or lawyers, so we will, but able to kind of talk about the topic and then say to engage in this further, you may need to consult a export compliance lawyer or a tax attorney that would help you really comply properly for your specific transaction. But we definitely counsel on those issues and are trained on how to counsel on those issues without being the ones. We are not the authority, so we can't tell you you need a license or you don't need a license, etc. We tell you how you figure that out.
And if someone has follow-up questions about any of the services, should they reach out to you or should they reach out to their local office?
Either one. The local office is probably going to be the direct contact. If they reach out to me, I will look up where they're where they're located and get them to the right person. But typically, our U.S. Operations are responsive and should get back to any inquiries within a reasonable period, same day, next day, a couple days. But of course, anybody who gets hold of the commercial service will get referred to the right office as soon as possible. So
So if you
happy
go to
to take those.
trade.gov/locations, they can find your contact information and they can find contact information for their local office.
Absolutely. Yep. That'll pop up the website of the local office, and there'll be a contact us right there with the phone number, email address, and listings of the specialists often. We, like I said, we divide our workload by industry sector typically. So sometimes you could even just see like, yeah, I'm in the medical device industry, and there's the healthcare medical device specialist, and I will contact her. So yeah, but this page will get you to all our contact information.
Okay, great. So again, I really encourage everyone on this webinar today to at least look up to see where your office is located, your closest office. So that's all our time that we have today, and I want to thank you all for attending. And Matthew, I want to thank you for taking the time to share this information with all of us. It was very good, and I know we all appreciate it very much. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. You're welcome.
We've got some upcoming webinars that I want everyone to know about as well. Our next 3 webinars, we're going to have our friend Bob Imbriani back, and he's going to be talking on a variety of topics. On Wednesday, April 10th, he'll do a presentation on classifying your products for importing and exporting. He did that a year or 2 ago, and that was very, very well attended. So we're going to do it again. So sign up early if you're planning to attend that one. On Wednesday, May 15th, he'll be on a webinar with Lisa Niemer to talk about filing your electronic export information through AES Direct. And on Wednesday, June 26th, Bob will be doing a presentation on understanding the International Bill of Lading. So if you are getting my emails, and I'm guessing that if you're on here, you probably are, you should get notice for all of those. And if you're not yet a subscriber, please go to shippingsolutions.com/blog, and you can register there and get all those updates. Also want to make sure that everyone is aware that May is World Trade Month. And so we are starting to add events to the worldtrademonth.com webinar, including several events sponsored by the U.S. Commercial Service. So check that out, worldtrademonth.com, for events happening in May. There's about a couple dozen events up there so far, and I expect that there'll be many more added to that over the next few weeks. In addition, I want everyone to know about the Shipping Solutions YouTube channel, which we have now gone live for. If you are a fan or a reader of our international trade blog passages at all, we're taking some of that same information and putting it in video format. So if you go to YouTube and search for @Shipping Solutions, you should see a list of all our videos. They're usually around 5 minutes long. They cover a variety of topics related to different aspects of international trade. We're kind of talking right now about export documents. We've got a series of videos coming up soon on Incoterms. And so we're covering a lot of different topics. So check that out. And if you think it is at all helpful, please subscribe. It really helps us get into the YouTube algorithm and increase viewership of those videos. So thank you all for attending. Appreciate your time. Thank you again, Matthew, and wish everyone a good day, and stay well, everyone.